Welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in a never changing world. One of the good things about growing old is people judge you less when you sometimes say outrageous things. I'm getting older, and I've had a fascinating life. I also have opinions. You may not agree with those opinions, and I may not care. Even now, I'm passionate about many things. I love to learn. I love quotes. I love my animals on the farm, and I care about my country. Join me as we explore loving life even as we age. Today is December 27, 2024. This is episode 70. Don't be complacent. In this episode, we're going to discuss an important piece of financial partnership in a marriage. But first, farm happenings. I, of course, this is the 27th, but we have a week or so before Christmas. There's a local abuse shelter that once a year they have. The ladies in my church volunteer to go down and wrap a bunch of gifts for ladies who are in this abuse shelter and their children. And um, this is my second year doing it. I was a little concerned the first year I did it because back in 1998, I was attacked and raped and had to play dead 4 times and all that other stuff. And this same organization helped me in a lot of ways. They got me a bicycle because my car was broken down. They got me some pants so I could start a new job. And they, of course, they did the counseling and help and had advocates with me when I went to court and everything. So I feel like I owed them a lot owed them a lot, And but I was concerned. This was a new building, this beautiful new building that is set up really nicely where the ladies can actually stay there and be safe. I mean, it's really locked down. You got to go through some stuff to get in the door, but it's still just nice inside. And the people who work there are very kind and friendly and stuff. But I didn't know if I could be in that building and look at some of the women that are there, because so many of them are so broken and it's so hard on them. But I was lucky, honestly. That first year, I didn't see any of the ladies who were staying there until I think at the very end, when I was heading out the door, there was a woman that looked like she was probably a resident there. But it helped me get over a lot of things by being there. So this year I didn't have any difficulty being there wrapping gifts and stuff. And of course, I'm always surrounded by my friends from the church, and so I don't know. It's just a nice way for me to give back to an organization that really did a lot for me when I really needed it. So so that's what I did. I wrapped gifts for some of those ladies and their children. Parent drama. Oh my gosh, guys. This was kind of a trip. Several months ago, or a few months ago, my mother had called me. Now they're in their 80s. Both of my parents have had strokes. My dad is in the late stages of Alzheimer's. Mom's in the earlier stages of Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia. And a few years ago, I moved them to Florida from Oklahoma so they could be with my brother. And they had their own house for a couple of years, and then they ended up moving in with my brother. And then as dad worsened, he got put in a nursing home, and mom continued to live with my brother and his family until just a month or so ago. And then she had diminished enough that she needed to join him. But before she joined him a couple of months ago, she had called me and says, "Hey, if I need to, can I come live with you?" And I'm thinking, yeah, I guess so, And I was thinking it was just her, and I'd have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to get her to live with me, but that's what she wanted. And if it was absolutely needed, my mother and I have never gotten along very well. And, but I didn't want to shirk my responsibilities. And honestly, I didn't ever think it would come down to it. She's in Florida. Dad's in Florida. If dad dies, I didn't know what would, I guess I was expecting dad to be dead or something by then. And maybe I could take her in and maybe she'd be, I don't know. I didn't know what I was expecting. So last week, both of my parents are in this nursing home. Neither one of them can have a cell phone. Dad had his taken away when he first got in there because he kept calling people all hours of the day and night. And so my brother had to take his cell phone away from him. He kept going, "I won't call anybody anymore." And he goes, "Yeah, you do. We've had this conversation before." So when mom joined dad, he had to take her phone too because dad would steal her phone and was calling people. So neither one had phone. And so when my brother called me last week, he goes, Mom wants to talk to you. And I said, okay, cool. That's great. And, because I haven't heard from him in a while. And I talked to my parents. I said, well, how's it going? And I'm going to cuss. She goes, I'm not for shit. I don't eat canned food, and that's what they've got here. I don't like canned food. Don't get me wrong. They're feeding me, but it's canned food. And this place just doesn't understand that your father and I fight. That's what we do. We fight, and they don't let us do it. I want to come live with you. And I'm going, what? She goes, your father and I, we've decided we want to come live with you. I'm going, okay. And so, okay. And I said that because they were on the phone. Mom was obviously upset. You don't want to make things worse, I don't think, by saying, well, no, you can't do it. But while they were on the phone, I said, okay, we'll see what we can do. And I tried to explain to her then. I said, look, I don't have a ramp. I don't have this. I don't, it might be a little bit difficult. She goes, we'll just get a house and we'll put it at the bottom of the hill and we'll live down there at the bottom of the hill. Well, that's easier said than done, obviously. And I said, well, we'd have to figure out sewage and water and electricity and all that other stuff. She goes, well, let's get on it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Okay. So my brother goes, are you up for this? And I said, well, I guess. And he goes, well, I'll call you later. Well, he sent me a text. He called me later, I guess that's what he called me. He goes, I've got the flight booked, 1:30 in the afternoon, 1:30, no, January 31st. Okay, that was a text he sent me. He goes, the flights are booked January 31st. You've got that much time to get things together because mom and dad are on their way. And then, so I called him. I said, Eugene, I can't have him here. He goes, you said you would. I said, yeah, I said I would. I said, because I didn't want to tell my parents no. I said, but you don't understand. I don't have a ramp. My house is 40 inches off of the floor. I don't have handicapped bathrooms. I don't even have furniture to accommodate them. And he goes, it's tough. I booked three tickets and we're flying out there. I'm depositing them to your door and I'm flying home. It's like, oh my gosh. And so I was like, I won't lie. I was distraught, just distraught. I'm thinking, I guess I lied. I wasn't expecting mom and dad to just like come out here. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting my brother to tell me, well, it's already dead and done and you're on the way. And we thought about it and talked about it. And, my husband and I, Tom and I did. And, I was just really distraught. So then Tom started trying to get involved and talking to Eugene. And Eugene is going, busy, can't talk. Get ready for January 31st. It's like, shoot. So finally the next day I sent my brother a text and I said, hey, I'd be happy to have mom and dad come and come to Oklahoma. They cannot live in my house. I do not have what it takes. I do not have the facilities to have them live in the house. And I just can't imagine being mom and dad both. I kept trying to imagine it. And all I could see was nightmares. So I said, but I will put them in a facility. We'll find a facility out here and make sure that they're comfortable. And I will bring mom good food several times a week. And if she's up for it, I can take her out and maybe she can get to learn, see her new granddaughter. I mean, Ivy's 3 years old now, but they've never seen her. And so I said, well, I'll be happy to do that. And he finally sent me a text going, no, they're staying here. I'll handle it. And so, and he's mad at me. He's thinking I backed out of it. But I kind of felt like I was being railroaded because I had told mom and dad they could come, but I was hoping to have a personal conversation with my brother so that we could say, this is what I was doing. This is why I was doing, but he had already booked the airplane tickets. So it was a fiasco. And I can't imagine talking to mom this next time, seeing how that goes. I don't know. Otherwise we had a really good Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we went to my youngest son's house and had a nice Christmas with his wife and Ivy, and then his wife's parents were there and a couple of her cousins. And of course, since Ivy is the only grandbaby on that side of the family and their only child, their grandma, she likes to spend money. She likes to buy the toys. She buys all the things for Ivy. And it was fun. Ivy's a really good kid. And I don't know where she got it. Well, maybe she got it from Tony. Oh, maybe Kayla too, but they didn't get it from me. But Ivy's a really good kid. And it's just a joy to watch her and be with her and stuff. And it was good. So we did that Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Day, we went to Tom's cousin's house. And we always spend Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas over at his cousin's house. And Aunt Frankie, she's in her 90s now. She's diminishing pretty quickly. So I don't know. We're just watching people get old, and it's kind of hard, I guess. And then you see them at holidays, and you see, wow, look how much she's aged just in this amount of time and stuff. So, but other than that, it was fun because one of Tom's second cousins, he's married and he's got 3 children. Those are the cutest kids ever. And definitely country kids, definitely have confidence. And I don't know, they're cute though. Oh my goodness, they're just as cute as they can be. But I like watching them. Of course, we've got and it's kind of weird to watch all the kids because Tom and I have been together for 24 years, almost 25. And so a lot of these kids that are in high school now weren't even born whenever Tom and I started dating. And now they're in high school. The boys, one boy, he's gotten a full ride scholarship in Florida for football. Another boy, he's got 2 different schools trying to get him in football, and all their voices have changed. One of the boys has an interesting mustache. He's a good kid. He really is. But they were calling him the porn dude mustache. I don't know. We have a good time. So that was our, of course, way too much food, way too much of all of it. But it was a nice Christmas. And I hope that you guys had a good Christmas too. What I'm listening to, I just finished The Gap and the Gain. And guys, I cannot recommend this book more highly. The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Basically, Dr. Benjamin Hardy is the one who wrote it, but he gets a lot of information and stuff from Dan Sullivan. But The Gap and the Gain, I've listened to it twice now, and I just ordered the hardcover, not the hardcover, an actual copy of the book that should be arriving anytime, so I can actually read it and do my highlights so I can have that book for Books Highlighted podcast too. But yeah, I just finished that one. It's been a good one. And also, I'm still in the middle of Heretics of Dune by Frank Herbert. I'm still on the first listening, so, oh well, that's the way that goes. What I'm reading Spuds, Spam, and Eating for Victory, Rationing in the Second World War by Catherine Knight. And I'm also in the middle of The Unsinkable Mrs. Brown by Carolyn Bancroft. This was a book that was written, I think it was written in the 40s. I can't remember when it was actually written. Is there a long time ago? So the writing style is completely different. The book is very thin, so it shouldn't take me too long to get through it. But I don't know, the writing style is just completely different and a little disjointed and stuff. So, but I'm learning about a historical figure, from that time, I guess. And I just started on the book called The Other Emily by Dean Koontz. I love my Dean Koontz books. And so I was in the middle of that one. My quote of the week, I choose a quote that I have I've put on TikTok and Instagram. And one, I read several almost daily, a quote. So from the last podcast to this podcast, I choose a quote that I find in particular that I like. And this one is, the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sail. John C. Maxwell. And I like looking up stuff, learning about the author that said it. And even though I know John Maxwell and I read several of his books and know a little bit about him, I don't know, Google has just changed so much. I mean, I did find some stuff, but it's not, like Wikipedia and stuff is not nearly as in depth as it was even just a few months ago. So, it just barely touches on things. But he was born February 20, 1947 in Garden City, Michigan, and he's 77 years old. He has led churches in Indiana, Ohio, California, and Florida. He attended Ohio Christian University, Azusa Pacific University, and Fuller Theological Seminary. He has written several books on leadership, some of which have made the New York Times bestseller list. He now lives with his wife, Margaret, who he's been married to since 1969, and they live in South Florida. And that's pretty much all that they had about him. Well, they had something about Cambodia, but I didn't understand it completely. But, I would like to know a little bit more about Margaret. I would have liked to know about some of the things he's been through in his life, but they don't do that anymore. All right, we're down to our main subject. Don't be complacent. As I get older, I keep hearing horror stories about some of the messes that widows inherit after their husbands die. One woman can't really claim that her husband is passed because her name is not fully on the property she lives on. I believe her name is on the house, but it's not on the land. He bought it before they were married and never updated the paperwork. But when they built the house, her name was on the house. I don't know, something like that. And now she is struggling. She's struggling to make house payments and raise a granddaughter while working a full-time job. And her income is just not enough to pay the bills. Yet she can't really sell the house because of the ownership tangle. Another woman lost her husband a couple of years ago and is just now filing for probate on the property because the house is literally falling apart and she can't care for the land in the house on her own. And so when she finally decided to sell it, she discovered an issue with the deed from a lease to own deal that fell through many years ago. And when it did, her husband did not re-secure the deed to the land, and probate is now taking longer because of the need to straighten out the paperwork. The remaining balance on the house that she owes on this property, with the probate cost and realtor cost, realtor fees and stuff, it is more than she could sell the property for. The lawyer and the realtor are working with her and charging less for their services so that she will break even. And when the place sells, she'll have broken even with no place to live. I heard another woman state the other day that since her husband died, she is struggling to figure out how to pay the bills. Her husband had always taken care of that. We all know ladies who struggle with paying property taxes, paying bills, understanding and taking care of the health care, car, and property insurance. And the Bible talks about taking care of widows. And I understand that culture has changed and the women were required to depend on their husbands and to provide for their needs. Even though this is not required in this day and age, the practice apparently is still widely exists. My heart hurts for these women. Not only are they now traversing life without their husbands, they're wading deep into territory they're not familiar with, and they frankly feel overwhelmed and lost. I understand that as a single mom early on, I had to learn to take care of all the things it took to run a family. I have to admit, after Tom and I married, I became complacent and let him take care of the financial needs. He had been doing it for years and owned several properties. When his father died and he inherited the property we're on now, I wanted my name on the deed for the land. We later bought a camper and my name was on that too. Everything else was in Tom's name. I did not own any part of the laundromat that he owned, but I ran it for him, nor the 2 rental properties in Tulsa, and not the house that we lived in Claremore. After Tom had succumbed to depression, all the properties in Tulsa were severely neglected and cost money because the city kept having to come in and maintain the property on his behalf. After his depression deepened to the point that I was afraid to leave the room because I had the desperate feeling that he would kill himself, he neglected the finances. I learned that later that he was considering suicide. I also learned later that we nearly lost everything for lack of him making payments. I don't know where the money went, but I had to step up and take over. It was not an easy fight to convince him that I was now in charge. I was years out of practice and dealing with a sick man who wouldn't get help and was not cooperating with my efforts. He finally sold the properties in Tulsa at a very discounted price because of the dilapidation. The laundromat was liquidated, and we made enough money to cover the last month's building rent, water, and electricity bill. The house in Claremore sold for a little better price, but it was in terrible shape too. And at the time of the sale, we almost lost the farm for back taxes. I still make mistakes with the money on occasion, but I stay on top of it to the best of my ability. I keep Tom informed when he's available enough to care to ask. I say all this to let you know that I do understand that you are probably dealing with a male ego who wants to take care of his wife and family. He wants you to not have to worry about the finances. He may not even need to have that control. My father did that, but he may even need to have that control, excuse me. But after, he wanted mom not to have to worry about paying the bills. But after he had his stroke, his brain didn't work as well, and he got them into significant debt. Mom had to take over to save them. And she had not ever in all of her 70 years, I think at the time, knew how to do that. I strongly suggest that women start taking interest in the finances, property, wills, insurance, etc. And most women are good about encouraging their husbands to share information with them. Men, if you really and truly care about your wife and family, teach her how to pay the bills. Teach her how to deal with the finances. You can still do it, don't get me wrong, but teach her how to do it. Understand that you may not be around forever or have a medical issue like a stroke that prevents you from doing these tasks. Ladies, don't be complacent in this part of your marriage. Men, make sure that she can take over if needed. Be the partnership that you were meant to be and take care of each other. All right, my question of the day is your marriage a partnership, including the finances? Email me at theciaellis@gmail.com, theciaellis@gmail.com. All right. Things have changed with the Self-Reliance Festival. It's only going to be one time a year, but I still highly, highly recommend going. This is going to be in 2025. It's going to be October 4th and 5th. And yes, that's a ways away, but that gives you plenty of time to check into it and see what all is available there. And I would encourage you to go. There's so many like-minded people there, so many things that you can learn, so many people that you can meet. It's just really cool. And if you decide to go through my link below and buy your tickets through there. It won't cost you anymore, but it does help me with my bills on this end of it. I would appreciate if you tell other people about my podcast. I'm trying to make it where it covers a variety of subjects and things that are important to me, and not just a bunch of fluff. I want to say things that will be helpful to you in one form or another. Where I can be found, Grandma's Homestead, guys. I'm doing pretty good about keeping on top of that one. This is my website. grandmashomestead.farm is what it is. And I've got recipes on there. I do a blog every week or two where I kind of update you on what's happening on the farm. And I also include links to videos and show you a picture occasionally or something like that. And I'm learning more about how to take care of a website, but at least I am producing things to put onto it. I just now got to learn a few other things about it. So grandmashomestead.farm. I've also had, of course, the Grandma Homestead YouTube channel, Farm Animal Life YouTube channel, Kinsey Lackey Sports YouTube channel. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, and Rumble under some form of Thecia Dayhoff Ellis, Thecia Ellis, or Thecia E. And I also now have a Grandma's Homestead Facebook page. All right, guys. That's all I got for you this time. Like I say, don't be complacent. Be good partnerships with each other and live until you die. God bless, guys. I'll see you next time.